In 509 BC, the Roman nobility finally snapped. After enduring years of cruelty under Tarquin the Proud, they violently expelled the royal family and made a strict vow: Rome would never be ruled by a king again. To replace the monarchy, they designed a system where power was shared. 2 elected consuls led for a single year, advised by a council of senior citizens known as the Senate. But the internal mechanics of this new government favored a very specific group. Every position of authority was controlled by the Patricians, the old, wealthy noble families who held an absolute monopoly on the Senate, the top government jobs, the priesthoods, and the creation of the laws. By ending the monarchy, the Romans had simply transferred absolute authority to a different elite group. In these early years, government power remained a closed circle for the patrician class. Outside of those noble families were the plebeians, the ordinary farmers, craftsmen, and traders. Despite making up the vast majority of the population, they were excluded from all political decision-making. Yet, the physical survival of Rome rested entirely on their shoulders. They paid the taxes, constructed the buildings, and fought in the army. This visualization shows the extreme imbalance of the early republic. 90% of the population provided the entire labor and military force, while the remaining 10% held every ounce of political authority. The people keeping the city alive were completely locked out of running it. This arrangement was tested almost immediately. Early Rome was surrounded by hostile neighbors on the Italian peninsula, resulting in decades of near-constant warfare. The plebeians were returning from brutal military campaigns exhausted, only to find themselves crushed by spiraling debt and a legal system managed entirely by patrician judges. In many societies, this level of inequality leads to an armed, violent rebellion against the ruling elite. But the plebeians identified a more effective strategy. They decided to weaponize their own utility rather than their weapons. The laborers and foot soldiers realized that their collective utility provided them with a massive, untapped form of strategic leverage. In 494 BC, they executed the world's first general strike. The plebeians simply dropped their tools, turned their backs on Rome, and walked out. They set up a massive camp on a nearby hill and refused to serve in the army, refused to work, and refused to support the state in any capacity. Inside the city walls, the economy ground to a halt. Construction projects stopped, public markets emptied, and trade ceased entirely. The military consequence was even more severe. As this map shows, an empty Roman garrison left the city vulnerable to invasion by its hostile neighbors. The patrician elite suddenly confronted the fact that their wealth and titles cannot block an enemy sword. By removing themselves from the equation, the workers proved that a republic cannot exist without the people who build it. To save the city, the Senate was forced to negotiate. They agreed to create a new power-sharing structure that gave the working class a voice. The result was a revolutionary new political office operating in the heart of Rome, the Tribune of the Plebs. This was an elected representative whose specific job was to step in and protect ordinary Romans from being mistreated by patrician officials. To ensure they could perform this role, the Tribune was granted legal untouchability. It became a capital offense for the state to arrest or harm a tribune while they were in office. This was more than a temporary concession. It was a permanent, institutional check against elite power engineered directly into Roman law. This initial success established the precedent that power could be challenged through legal institutions rather than through constant cycles of violence. Over the next 2 centuries, the plebeians used this foothold to win the right to marry into noble families, to become priests, and hold the republic's highest offices. This system of institutional stability lasted for generations. It only failed much later, when politicians like the Gracchi brothers were murdered in open defiance of their legal protection, causing the entire republic to finally unravel. The 494 BC strike revealed a critical truth. A system that relies on the participation of many is highly vulnerable to their organized withdrawal.